Hello, welcome back to Cookery for Lockdown. We're on week 4 now, so we've had 3 weeks, 3 recipes already. I hope you've enjoyed them, and thank you for those that have sent picture and feedback on those dishes for me. Today we're going to do a minestrone soup. So, really simple, using up vegetables, or if you've got, you don't have to use up vegetables, but it's a good way of using up vegetables and ingredients that you have in your cupboard or in your fridge. It's a very useful and it's quite a filling meal. So I'll run, like usual, I'll run through the ingredients needed, the equipment needed, and then I'll give you a tutorial on the method on how to make it. Hope you enjoy this dish, and I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so we're going to run through the ingredients that we're going to use for the minestrone. Okay, it might seem like I've got quite a few ingredients here, but don't worry if you haven't got all these. You can mix and match it. Use what ingredients you've got in your store cupboard, freezer, fridge, for example. I'll run through my ingredients and then I'll just give you some ideas if you haven't got these. So ideally we do need an onion, so just a smallish onion and a couple of cloves of garlic. Obviously it's an Italian soup, so we will ideally need some garlic in there. If you haven't got any garlic cloves, use some garlic powder or some garlic paste if you buy garlic paste. We're going to use some celery, so just a stick of celery, a leek. Now it's quite a large leek, so I'm not going to use all this. I'm going to probably use a third of this leek because it is quite thick and it is a large leek. Potato, just a small potato, about 50 grams. Carrot, again, small carrot. Some cabbage. Now I've got white cabbage here. You can use Savoy cabbage, kale, any cabbage you like. I've just got this one in my fridge, so I'm using this one up. Again, we're not going to use this, quite a large cabbage, so I'm just going to use maybe an eighth of this or a quarter. Some garden peas, which we'll be putting in last minute. I don't want to overcook them, so they're going literally last minute because they will take minutes to cook. We've got some tomato puree, just to give it that nice colour. It'll help thicken the liquor up a little bit, and it will give some flavour. Now I've got some orzo pasta, so this is small grains of pasta. They look a little bit like rice. I think these are ideal for minestrone soup. Obviously if you don't have these in your cupboard, you can use spaghetti, penne, your spirals, fusilli or farfalle, your bows. So it doesn't matter, just use whatever pasta you got up in your fridge. And if you haven't got any pasta in your fridge, it doesn't matter, you don't even need to use the pasta. Okay, some butter just to fry the vegetables off in. Again, you can use oil, olive oil, margarine. If you want some tomatoes, it is a tomato based soup, so I've got some chopped tomatoes. If you've got some fresh tomatoes, just chop them up, take the seeds out, and then dice them into little cubes and then pop them in. That's quite nice, but I'm going to use some chopped tomatoes, and I'm going to use a little bit of the tomato juice as well. Again, it adds flavour, it adds colour. Vegetable stock cube, so I've just got an OXO one there, but you can use any, and we're just going to add that to about a litre and a half of water, and that'll help with the flavour. And then we're going to make a bouquet garni. So a bouquet garni is a collection of herbs which help give soups, stocks, stews, that sort of thing, and it helps give flavour. So a bouquet garni consists of a bay leaf, some thyme, and some parsley stalks. Okay. Now, if you've got some muslin cloth, you can wrap that in some muslin cloth with some peppercorn, maybe a little bit more garlic, and it just sort of infuses. It's like a tea bag. It looks like a little bit like a tea bag, and it infuses the flavour of the herbs into it. And again, you can mix the herbs up. I've got these herbs growing in my garden. So I'm using these. If you don't have any herbs growing in your garden, don't worry about it. Just get like a teaspoon of mixed dry herbs, or you can actually buy bouquet garnis in the shop ready made up. But don't worry about it. You don't need to add them. I just like to add them because they add a little bit of flavour. Now we're going to have to. So we're not just going to put these in the soup. So I'll show you how to make this. If you haven't got any muslin cloth as well. Okay. So equipment wise, make sure you've got a chopping board, nice and solid on your work surface. Maybe put a damp piece of kitchen towel underneath to stop it from slipping. Just a chef's knife, small knife to help peel the vegetables, and a potato peeler as well. Get yourself a bowl for your waste trimmings, and we'll need quite a large saucepan and a spoon to stir with. And then just to help make your bouquet garni, we're going to use a little cling film as well. Okay, so this is the ingredients. Again, if you don't have all these vegetables, just use up what you got in your fridge or freezer, cupboard. So you can use some tinned vegetables. You can use sweet corn. You could use any vegetables you've got left. If you've had a meal and you've got some vegetables left over, use those up. It's about using up the ingredients. It saves you going out buying more. This dish is traditionally a peasant's dish, so a little bit of history about the dish. It's an Italian dish, dates back hundreds and hundreds of years, and it was made generally by peasants. So they used to scrape around for all the leftovers, all the vegetables, the pasta, and then they used to make a nice hearty meal out of it. Now it's a soup, but it's like a broth, and it's quite hearty. It's got pasta in it, and you've got loads of vegetables in it, so it is quite filling. And it can fill any appetite. Doesn't matter how hungry you are, it can fill an appetite. So that's the ingredients, and then we'll run through the instructions on how to make it. So now we're going to prepare the vegetables. Okay, so remember, make sure your chopping board's nice and secure. Bit of wet kitchen roll underneath stops it from sliding around. Make sure you get yourself a waste bowl for all your trimmings, veg trimmings that you're not going to use. I've got myself a little tray here. This is just so once I've cut my vegetables, I'm going to put them on there so they're not clogging up my board. I'm not getting my board nice and messy. So I'm going to chop them up, pop them on the board. Obviously make sure all your equipment's nice and clean, your work surface is nice and clean, and you wash your hands, food safety, personal hygiene. We want to protect yourself. We don't want you getting ill. We don't want you getting stomach bugs or anything like that. So just make sure everything's clean. Okay, so now we're going to start prepping the vegetables. So I've got my bowl, potato peeler. I'm just going to peel my potato into the bowl. So it's a really nice dish, this really good filling dish, and it's not expensive to make, and it's a good way of using up all your ingredients. So potato peeled, just give it a rinse under the water. Obviously it grows under the ground, so it can have soil on it. And just give it a quick rinse. Okay, and then all we're going to do with this is dice it up. So just using a chef knife, obviously make sure your fingers are nice and straight. Just cut it into slices. So we've got little slices there, and then we're going to cut it into strips. So take your time with this. If you can do a couple of pieces at the same time, do. If not, just do one at a time. And we want the vegetables to be nice and chunky. Okay, so we've got our strips. So we cut our slices into strips. So they've gone from that into the strips, and then we're going to dice. So you probably want about 1/2 centimetre dice, but that depends on you. If you like them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, it's all up to you. So you can see we've gone from the potato slice slices into the strips, and into the dice. Once they're diced, we're going to put them on our little board that we've got there, and then we'll go on to the next vegetable. So next I'm going to prepare my onion. So where the stem would grow out of the ground, I'm going to get a small knife, just chop it, leave a little bit of a hinge. Okay, and that's just going to help peel it. So just using the flat edge of the knife and your thumb. Don't get your fingernails under. Remember, we don't want to get the juices under our fingernails. It irritates, and we do tend to touch our faces quite a lot. So if you do this, then touch your face, you're going to get the juices underneath your eyes, and that's when you're going to start getting those tears coming through, and we don't want to be crying. Okay, so just use the wall of your knife and your thumb, and then just peel back the dry skin. So don't use your fingernails. Again, it's unhygienic as well. So just keep scraping and peel that off. Okay, once you've peeled that off, we're just going to take the root off. We're going to dice it, so we don't want to take it fully off. We're just going to take the dry part of the root off. So just using your knife, just trim the dry part off. Now we want to try and keep all the layers together. So just gently trim. And keeping the layers makes it easier to dice. Okay, don't worry about that too much because we will be getting rid of this little piece afterwards. Okay, so when we come to dice it, make sure we've got this flat edge on the board so it's nice and stable. Try not to cut with the round because it rolls around. So get that flat edge on the board. Again, using the heel of the knife, cut through the centre of the root. So you can see I've cut through the root where it keeps all the layers together. And then we're going to make some incisions. So using the tip of the knife now, we're going to make some little incisions. We're not going to cut all the way through the onion, which I'll show you in a second. So if you remember from previous videos, we only cut and we just left a little bit. So you should be able to fan your onion like that. So you've got all your layers, but they're attached still by the roots. So, okay, so when we come back to cut across them that way, all the layers will stay together, they shouldn't slide around. Okay, so pop it back on your board, and using the heel again, we're going to dice the onions. Keep your fingers out of the way, thumb and fingers out of the way, and just slowly dice the onion. Okay, turn it over, trim all the little pieces. No, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like I say, it's a very rustic peasant's dish, as they used to say. And then you have your diced onions. That little bit of root, just pop it in your waste bowl. Okay, and then do the same with your other half of onion. Okay, so the onion's diced now, so I'm just going to slide it onto my little tray. So this keeps your work area nice and organised. It helps with hygiene. It just makes it a little bit easier for you as well. So you can see I've got my potatoes and I've got my onion. Okay, so next I'm going to prepare my celery. Again, you sometimes get a bit of soil on it. Just give it a good rinse under the tap. Make sure it's nice and clean. Okay, so we always clean our vegetables. We can get a lot of bacteria that does tend to hang around in soil. So we want to keep the vegetables nice and clean. Yes, we are going to cook them, but if we can get all the soil off as well, we don't want any of them unpleasant textures in there. So it's quite a big stick of celery, so I'm probably only going to about use 2/3 of it. So make it easier to cut, we're going to use a heel and a knife, cut it into more manageable pieces. Okay, so again we're going to dice this. We're going to cut it in half lengthways. So you should have a piece of celery, and then we've cut it lengthways. Okay, so we're just going to make these strips a little bit thinner so we can dice them. So I'm going to cut them in half again. So the same with this one. Now if you wanted to, some people don't like the texture of celery on the outside. So you could peel your celery and get rid of the stringiness. It doesn't really bother me, so I leave it on. And then, so once we've got our strips, we're going to dice them up. Okay, so put them all together. Again, if you can't manage them all at once, take your time, do 2 or 3 at once. Okay, use the heel of your knife, keeping your fingers nice and safe. We're going to dice them again. So we'll try and get them all similar sort of size cuts to your other vegetables. And just take your time and dice them up. Okay, so there we have our diced celery. Okay, so again, that goes on with our other vegetables. Ready there. So again, similar to our leek, we're going to dice this up as well. Massive leek this, so I'm not going to use a lot. So I said about 1/3, so just cut what you want to use off. Okay, so again, I'm going to cut it in half lengthways, and I'm going to give this a quick rinse under the sink as well. Again, this one's not too bad, but you tend to get soil in between the layers, each layer of the leek. So give it a quick rinse under the cold water tap. Okay, so we're going to cut this again into a dice. So take the centre out, just take a few of the layers out, and then it should lay flat on the board. Okay, so again we're going to cut it into long strips, and then we're going to go back across it and dice it. So again, using the heel of your knife, cut it into nice strips. Okay, and then we're going to go back across and cut it into our dice. So again, similar size to the potatoes, celery and onions that we cut. And once they're done, we can scrape them onto our tray again, and you just repeat that with the rest of the leek that you have there. Okay. So next we're going to prepare our carrot. Again, we're going to peel it. So get your waste bowl so you're not putting your wet mess everywhere. It's going straight into the bowl, and it really helps with organisation if you've got a waste bowl. And we're just going to peel this. It's not a massive carrot, this. We don't want it too big. Again, different colour vegetable as well, so add some different colours in there and a lot of flavour. So we peeled that, grows under the ground again, give it a good rinse under the tap, and then we'll dice that as well. Okay, so again, make sure it's nice and secure on the board. So we're going to take the ends off, top and tail it. Okay, again, cut it into a more manageable piece. Cut it into your strips, similar size to your other vegetables that you cut. And then into your batons or sticks. So you can see we've gone for our strip to our baton, and then we're going to dice it again. So again, remember, similar size to your other vegetables. Using the heel of the knife, keeping your fingers nice and safe, we'll dice that off. So the process of cutting, cut your carrot into slices, then into sticks, and then we're going to go across and we're going to dice. Pop them on your tray again with your other vegetables, so you can see it's nice and organised. We've not got pieces of vegetable everywhere. Keeps your area nice and tidy and makes it easier to cook. Okay, we'll repeat that with the rest of the carrot and then pop them on the tray. So the next vegetable is my cabbage. Okay, so I've got quite a large cabbage here and I don't really want to use a lot of it. So I'm just going to take the outside layers out, they're a little bit damaged. So I'm just going to take those off, and then I'm going to cut myself a small wedge. So just carefully cut yourself a small wedge off. So you can see I haven't got a great deal now. I've cut about an eighth off that. I'm going to take the stem out, the stalk. I don't want the inner stalk, it's tough not very nice. So I'm just going to cut that out with my knife into the waste bowl. And then again, we're going to cut this into dice. So you've got layers and leaves. So take them apart so they're in more manageable pieces. So I'm going to cut that in half. And then again, cut them into strips. And then we can go across and we can dice the cabbage. Okay, so we're using the heel of the knife again. Fingers nice and safe, just dice them off. Again, similar size to your vegetables. Now we've got plenty of flavour in here, plenty of vegetables, different textures, different colours, loads of vitamins and minerals in there. Really nice healthy soup this. Okay, so they can go onto my tray. And then we just repeat that with the other pieces of cabbage that you want to use. So again, if you wanted to bulk this up, make this a bit bigger, this will freeze really well once you've made it. We're going to cook it in a saucepan. If you've got a slow cooker, you could gently fry off in the pan, add your vegetables to your saucepan, then add your stock. But I quite like this, it's going to be quick and fresh. I'm going to be eating this for my lunch with my family, so it's going to be served straight away. So if I'm going to put it in a slow cooker, obviously we'd be cooking it for an hour and a half, but this will probably only take about 20 minutes in the pan. So again, just finish off the rest of the cabbage, pop it on your tray. So just got our final bit of vegetable prep now. So we're going to do our garlic cloves. Now you can crush this into a paste if you want, or you can do this on a grater. So we're just going to trim this off. Again, get your waste bowl. We're going to take the roots off this end and just nick it off. And this just makes it a little bit easier to take the skin off. So again, using your knife, try not to use your fingers, because again, like onions, they do have their juices that can tend to make you cry, depending on how strong they are. And so just peel them off using your knife. So you should have a peeled piece of garlic. So we want two. If you want to add less garlic, if you're not too keen or you like more, it's up to you. I've got two quite large cloves here. So remember, you can also use powdered garlic or prepared crushed garlic if you have, like in the jars, if you've got some of that already. Or sometimes you get garlic paste in a tube as well. So I've got my garlic peeled there. So you could crush it with a knife and some salt, but I'm going to do it a little bit different today, so I'm going to show you something different. So if you struggle, if you've seen in some of my other videos, I crush the garlic with salt and a knife. So if you do struggle with this, I'm just going to show you a little bit of an easier way. So just get a fine grater and just grate the garlic. And you don't get it as much as a paste, but you should still get plenty of flavour of this. Remember, the finer you grind your garlic down, the more flavour you're going to get out of it. So just on a fine grater, and then you've got some garlic there. Your grated garlic. So again, just going to put that on top of my onion, and then you have all your vegetables ready. Okay, so it's important to get all your preparation ready first. Okay, so to add to that, I've got about 25 grams of garden peas. We're going to put them in last minute, and excuse me, we'll do our bouquet garni. So I've got my bay leaf, my thyme, and my parsley from the garden. Okay, so if you have got fresh herbs like this, it's nice to use them. So like I said, you could wrap them in a muslin cloth with some peppercorns, tie a little bit of string around the top and dip that in like a tea bag. Or if you haven't got any muslin cloth, which I don't, I'm just going to get a little bit of cling film and just sort of pop it into a nice thin piece, and then all I'm going to do is tie that around and then into a knot. So just tie it into a knot, nice and tight. It's nice and tight, and you can pop that in your pan, and it should stay together. And you don't need to worry about it clinging too much. It won't melt because you're only going to put it in the liquid stage. So I've got my bouquet garni there as well, and then I'm going to weigh myself about 25 grams of orzo. Now, you don't need a lot of pasta. Remember, when pasta absorbs water, it expands, so don't put too much in, and it does absorb a lot of the water, and then you lose that liquid in your soup as well. You can always top it up, but I try not to put too much in. I've got some butter to fry my vegetables off. I've got my stock cube, and I'm probably going to use about half a tin of these tomatoes, and then we're going to get our tomato puree. But we're going to take them over to our pan, and then I'll show you the stages of the cooking. So now we're going to cook the dish. So make sure you've got all your ingredients ready. So I've got my vegetables there. I've got all my other little bits and bobs, my butter, my pasta, tomato puree, tin tomatoes. They're all ready on the side, ready for me. I've got my pan warming up on the stove here.
You got me?
I've got my little son here, Harry. He's just decided to come in and help me do this a little bit. So he's going to do the cooking for us. So get your pan nice and warm, not too hot, because we don't want the butter to burn when we put it in. So we're going to put the butter in, Harry.
Pour it on.
Oh, just pop it in, yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so I've got about 50 grams of butter in there. Now just be careful, and then we're going to put our vegetables in. All our vegetables. So our leek,
Can I help you?
our cabbage, our carrots, celery, onion,
Cheese.
garlic,
Cheese.
garlic, Harry. The garlic and our potato, and we're just going to cook those off a little bit. So if you want to give them a stir, please, Harry.
What? Stir.
Give them a stir, keep them moving. Yep. We don't want them to burn. We just want to start to soften them.
Yeah.
Okay. So give them a good stir.
Some of them are kind of already softening.
Yeah, that's it. Give them a stir.
Mix of garlic around as well. Well done.
That's pasta.
Pasta.
So keep stirring. Careful.
Nice.
So obviously remember your health and safety. Remember your pan. Your stove's going to be hot. So if you could, try and keep your hands out of it too much. Make sure your pan handle's not sticking out over the edge, just in case you have any children or other people walk past, knock the hand down. And make sure we've got a dry cloth as well ready.
Try this.
Okay.
Try and pick it up and then.
So just give it a good stir. We're just starting to soften the vegetables.
And try to pick it up with the spoon and then drop it.
So we've got all our vegetables in there, cooking off, and they're all going to add flavour to the dish.
It's softening.
Okay. So once they start to soften, we're going to add some tomato puree.
That's nice.
This is going to add some colour.
Oh, red colour.
It's going to add some flavour, and it's going to help thicken up the liquid in the soup a little bit as well.
It's kind of getting it different colour.
So you want to cook that out for a couple of minutes. So we're going to give that a good minute or so cooking.
And get this down.
So remember your pan's hot, Harry.
Yeah, take the things off the side. There we go.
Okay, so I'm going to add about half a tin of my tomatoes.
I don't really like tomatoes.
So again, this is going to add some colour and some flavour.
A lot of colour. I'm gonna have this for my
Our stock cube.
Ooh. Vegetables mixed up.
So this one's a vegetable one. Again, you could use a chicken stock cube if you wanted. But obviously for vegetarians, my daughter's vegetarian, so we're using a vegetable.
Yeah.
So just cook that out a little bit more.
She might want this for lunch.
And then I'm going to add about 1.5 litres of water.
Ooh, hot water.
I'm just using some water from the kettle. So I've got a litre jug there.
No, it's soup. I'm stirring soup now. Are you getting off?
So that's 1.5 jugs, 1.5 litres of water.
This is going to be nice soup.
And we're going to bring this to the boil. Okay, once it comes to the boil, we're going to turn it down and we're going to let it simmer. It's probably going to take about 20 minutes to cook. Okay. Also, I'm going to add my bouquet garni, so my herbs. So just sit that in.
But is this plastic?
It's cling film, but you take this out afterwards, so don't worry.
Just do it.
Okay. So you can remove that afterwards once the soup's ready. Give it a little bit of a stir. Bring it to the boil, and then simmer it for about 20 minutes.
What if it sinks though?
You find it with a spoon.
Oh.
Okay. Yep.
This is going to be nice.
Okay, and then just let it simmer for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to add our pasta and peas. My soup's now been simmering for about 20 minutes, so the vegetables are starting to soften. So we're going to add our pasta now. Okay, so again, use any pasta you've got. I've got orzo, which is very similar shape to rice, but it grows probably 2 or 3 times this. You can use spaghetti, penne, any pasta that you've got. You don't even need pasta. If you want, you could use beans instead, or whatever you want. So I'm going to add my pasta now, and then cook that for probably another 10 minutes before I add my peas, and I'll add them a couple of minutes before it's ready to serve. I've been simmering now for another 10 minutes just to cook my pasta out, so it's grown in size, and I've just checked it and it is ready. So all the next job is to do is to remove your bouquet garni. So just on your spoon, make sure we remove this. Obviously we don't want to be serving that into a bowl. Hopefully we should have got all the flavours out of the herbs, and it should help with the flavour. So just for a little bit more colour, nice dark green, we're going to add our peas. Stir those in. Going to check that it tastes okay. So we may need to add a little bit of salt in there. It's got plenty of flavour in there. I just want to bring it through a little bit more. So I am going to put a little bit of salt in just to help, and a little bit of cracked black pepper. So just a good couple of pinches of salt. So we don't want to add too much salt. It's not ideally healthy for you, but it is good with flavour. It does bring the flavours out a little bit. Always add less, because you can always add more afterwards. Obviously if you put too much in at the beginning, it's hard to get out. So some good amount of black pepper. Give it a good stir, and then give it another taste. So remember to use a clean spoon. We don't want to be doing any double dipping. And I think that's just right, and it's ready to serve. Now you could serve this straight away, or if you want, it freezes quite well and it'll keep in your fridge for 2 or 3 days. You've probably got a good 4 good bowls of soup there, so it'll keep you going for, obviously if you've got a family, that'll feed your family. If there's a couple of you in the house, you get a good couple of meals out of that, and it is really filling. You've got the pasta in there, you've got plenty of vegetables, really good for you, loads of vitamins and minerals. If you wanted to add some meat into it, so you could add a bit of bacon into there, that would be nice. Bit of chicken. You could even, for the vegetarians, add a little bit more texture, put some tofu in there. But I quite like it just as it is with the vegetables. Plenty of flavour in there, the tomato, the herbs, and all the vegetables. So all I'll do serve that up in a bowl, bit of crusty bread, or if you wanted to go a little bit posher, you could toast off some sliced baguettes, grate some parmesan, pop it under the grill, and then just sit it on top of the soup. It adds another texture, another flavour, nice accompaniment. But I think just with a bit of crusty bread and butter, it's delicious. So enjoy your soup, and that is your minestrone soup. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed making the minestrone soup. You've enjoyed watching me make the minestrone soup. Again, mix up the ingredients. If you haven't got the ingredients that I've said, use what you've got in your cupboard. Use what you've got in your fridge or freezer. Don't worry about it. Remember, it's a peasant's dish. It's what they had left over, where it originates from. There's no set recipe for it. Obviously, you can use the recipe that we will send you once you see this on the Facebook page. If you request it, we can send you the recipe and the feedback sheet. Again, please send a picture in if you've made it. Show us what you've made. Give us some feedback on it, on the dish. Any suggestions for future sessions, videos, tutorials that I can do for you? Please give me some ideas, and I'll try and incorporate them into the tutorials. Feel welcome to do this. Again, really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Stay safe, and we'll see you next session.